audio's working. Looks like the audio's coming through. I think the audio's coming through. Yeah, should be coming through. All right, hopefully I'm loud enough for you guys. Okay, so trying something totally different, and I'm sort of almost flying by the wire here because I thought my laptop was here, and it is not here. So I had to use this laptop that is here. This laptop is on the fritz. It's a little bit fritzy. It's a little bit on the edge here. So, and what I'm going to try to do is one longtime fan, Rick, submitted audio's a little bit low. Let's see if I can turn it up a little bit. Yeah, I noticed that it was a little low. Maybe I just need to get closer to the mic. Is that better? Maybe that's just. I can probably turn it up over here. Let's see if can I just go into the gain. Yeah, I can add a little gain to it. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. I know I'm stalling for you guys to get back in. So there is a user that named Rick that always comes on here, drops some super chats, and he said, "Hey, why don't you critique one of my videos? I'm by no means a professional, so we'll keep that in our perspective as we look at this video. I think I can give you guys some little pointers and talk a little bit about this video. This is not a traditional. There he is. Hey, Rick, how you doing? So this is not a traditional like narrative film. This is not a storytelling film. This is more of a journalistic film. And I think, and again, we want to keep in mind that when we do a critique like this, audio seems okay. Just looking at some of your comments here. Then when we do a critique like this, so I'm going to provide information that you can use and anybody can use. And I'm not going to try to say like, well, what you got to do now is get a slider shot. You got to like go and get a crane shot, get a helicopter shot, drone shot. No. And again, part of this too is also going to be, I'm going to confer a little bit of what I can't help but give you a little bit of my style. That's just the reality of any kind of critique. I'm going to kind of give you some thoughts that I think I'm going to try to be as I'm not trying to impose my style as much as I'm not going to try to impose my style on you. However, I'm going to try to give you guys a little bit of pointers. I'm just kind of talking about everybody. I don't know. I'm blabbing. We should get to it. We should see if this actually works. I'm a little nervous. I'm nervous to see if this will work. I make sure my chat comments are up here, so I make sure that I don't accidentally mute myself as I tend to do. There we go. There's my chat. All right. So it looks like we're still on there. Just Sizzle Real asks, are those screens behind you? Yes, they are. Yeah, you don't need to put a slight blur on them because there's already kind of a depth of field behind you. And let's see, if I'm in focus, it's a little distracting. I disagree in that the fact that you can actually use a shallow depth of field or a small focal length. Anyhow, let's get to the video. I'm going to put myself in a box. I'm in a box. All right. So I've got it loaded up in Premiere. I've watched it once. We're going to start and stop it. We may not get through the entire thing, but it will kind of we'll just kind of start and stop and talk about things that I see. Okay. Oh, YouTube has new pop-up ads. Oh, that's annoying. All right. First is the intro. Here we go. Right there, I'll stop it there. So a good tip here, I don't know how you made that intro. The only thing I would say is I think it's better if you would actually just fly through the letters, like fly through that H there. Make sure I can see it. Like fly through that H so you can actually, instead of just fading it out like that, because that just seems kind of like a cop-out. You have a nice little intro effect. Again, I don't know how you made this, but that's something I would try to go through the H part, so you're not just kind of leaving it hanging there like that. So I like the shot. It's kind of cool, I'm not crazy about that Broadway font, but again, it's a choice thing. All right, the thing I do want to talk about here, you do have a little the G of that font is cut off at the bottom. Not quite sure why. I think this is a font called Broadway. Because I remember that from as a kid. This is a common font. So yeah, I watched the G's being cut off. Again, it might be a stylistic choice because you want to keep things on the bottom. One thing I do notice, I will say about graphics, and I see a lot of times with graphics, Um, a couple seconds at black at the start might be a good idea. It's a YouTube video, so that's not a really, you don't really want a couple seconds of black at the top of the video. Like you want to start it right away. But one thing I noticed about amateur graphics is you guys tend to go too close to the edge. Now this wouldn't be what I'd call title safe. Like this is now. In the old days with CRT televisions, that's cathode ray tube televisions, if you put stuff near the edge, it would actually fall out of range because the cathode ray has a little bit of give and take as far as the edges are concerned. So there's something developed called title safe. And then Premiere, I'm using Premiere here, and I can probably pull up Premiere. There's the title safe. It actually shows you where the safe margins are. We'll just add that to my bar. So you see, you're way outside of title safe. Like you see those lines there? Now I'm not saying you have to be inside title safe, by the way. So the three different lines are the title safe is the larger box, and then that's the action safe. So everything inside will be on the screen, and title safe is the inside box. You don't need to be super religious about being title safe, but I think just for visual balance, keeping things a little further from the edge, unless you're being absolutely deliberate about it, it's be better to kind of push that font up or title up a little bit closer to the top. I know we're spending a lot of time on the first 8 seconds. We'll keep going. Again, I like this shot. It's cool. Okay, I want to talk about this right here. So I would flip the colors there. I know your colors are going to be like the magenta and cyan colors, but flip them because the magenta is getting lost in the sky. Like you're not really seeing it. I actually dig the music. It's pretty cool. So you have a fade out of the music there. I think you want to tighten that up a little bit, so the fade out and that first sound effect, the whoop sound effect, just marry them a little tighter together. I think that would make it a little bit more whoop, backwards. There we go. And again, I'm sorry, I apologize. My computer is like dying, so if it's like a little bit wonky or something like that, I don't have your chat up. Let me get your chat back up again. There we go. And yeah,
in our last episode, we took care of our clutch problems by replacing the master cylinder and the slave cylinder.
I like these shots, by the way. These are nice.
We enlisted the help of a seasoned mechanic to help us bleed the clutch.
I love that shot of the kid.
Clean the wheels.
Okay, so here's an example of what you're gonna see. I'm gonna pick on this a lot, and that it's the framing of this shot is not very good. And here's the thing. So when we're doing a how-to video or anything, or any kind of like basically I wouldn't call it an industrial video, but it's more of an instructional video. Yeah, video quality is not that important. So in this situation, what I would do is I would just zoom in on your guy. Now, I don't know what your original file here is. If it's 4K, hey, cool, you got plenty to work with. But like if you just zoom in a little bit and like just correct the framing, because I know a lot of stuff is like is static shots. So I know you're not operating the camera, and I get that. That's fine. And I'm asking you, but if you just zoom in and for as long as this shot lasts, just having that better framing I think it's more important than actually having pixel for pixel quality.
Help us bleed the clutch, clean the wheels.
That to me just sells better. So that's something you can easily do with a lot of these shots, is just zoom in and focus on the important points. Again, don't worry about so much the quality, worry about the aesthetic value of the shot.
Taped off the rims.
Love that little time lapse. That's
Put
awesome.
on a couple coats of black paint.
See, in that situation, I like. Here's a good example where I like the framing a lot. You've got the wide barrel lens shot. You've got the leg. It works. This is not a situation where if I did a zoom in here, I mean it's okay, but you don't have the whole I like the seeing the guy's leg. That's just kind of, it's a cool shot.
Paint
I'd leave that shot like that.
added a red pinstripe, and the Corolla moved under its own power for the first time in years.
The axle there. I would give that shot a little more time if you have some more time on that shot, because I think that's a cool.
The interior of the Corolla has been ridden hard and put away wet. It lets the whole car down. Let's do something about it and replace the door cards. It isn't a particularly tough project, but it should pay off huge in visual appeal. I don't know if we'll be putting the tired armrests back on the doors, but we'll remove them carefully just in case.
So some of this, I think you can tighten some of the shots a little bit better. I'm just looking, if you look at the waveform, there's a lot of kind of dead air. Of course, so this is when you can get in there and like add a lot of like boost the music, like kind of normalize the music. It's called ducking, where you raise the music when there's no voiceover.
Visual appeal.
So this is the kind of time to maybe increase the volume a little bit. Again, I think that cut there is a little bit too late. You don't need to see his foot move. Like once you grab that screwdriver, it is a screwdriver, yeah. Once you grab that, you can cut right out of that. You can go to the next shot, because we really don't need to finish the action there. So that's the way you can tighten that up a little bit.
I don't know if we'll be putting the tired armrest back on the door.
This is also a thing where you could probably cut out, again, I know this is timing for your voiceover here, so maybe you can cut out him trying to find the actual grip of this.
I don't know if we'll be putting the tired armrest back on the doors, but we'll remove them carefully just in case. Or maybe they'll become the object of someone's affection on eBay. Bag 'em and tag 'em.
So Rick's asked, cut on action. Yeah, so you can cut a lot of times. I mean, sometimes you want to cut on action if it makes sense to make a cut between two things, right? So, going back to a shot like this here. I know we'll move forward. Some of the guys are like, get to the next part of the video. But like once he grabs that, you can then immediately cut. Heck, I can do it. It's gonna sound weird. So if we connect, this is talking about like the montage. Oh, Grandpa says, don't boost the music. It's annoying when that happens. Well, you know, if it's cool, if it's got a purpose, now what? Don't listen to the music. It's gonna be bad. See that you've got grab the screwdriver immediately going into the thing. So you've married those two concepts together. It's it's Einstein, not Einstein. It's the other montage talk. You know. Let's see how we do that. Boom, boom.
I don't know if
it makes it a little bit quicker. It connects the ideas together quicker instead of seeing him like walk away. We don't care about the walk away part.
We'll be putting the tired armrest.
Let's get back to head to where we were. I think. So you're
bag 'em and tag 'em.
Cool.
And once again, I have to be really careful because the plastic bits are old and frail.
Just like me, old and frail.
Okay. Over time, the door panel is twisted and popped the retainers off. Let's pop the rest of them off and free the door panel from the door. Oops, forgot the window crank. They make a tool just for this job. It pops the retaining ring off and you can slip.
So same thing there. I know you need a little bit of space for your voiceover.
Flip the crank right off the shaft? Who writes this stuff?
Okay, there. I just heard in the background. This is a technical note. I think you left a little bit of gnat sound in there, so I would just drop that. Also, I've noticed throughout this video, if you have gnat sound that you're coming in and out, like make sure you round them out. Cross dissolve them in and out so that it's not like a sudden thing. Everyone does that. Everyone has that issue. I have that issue too. I do. Sometimes I forget the technical term for it, like when you round the audio out. And just, I'm not quite 40 yet.
Now, with all that stuff out of the way, we can just lift the door panel off the door. Let's get the door panel stripped down. We can start with removing the plastic retainers. These look reusable, so we'll bag them and set them aside.
Now here's a situation where, like an extra close-up B-roll would be nice. And I realized, look, when you're trying to you're trying to fix the car and shoot a video, so sometimes one takes precedent over the other. So that's fine. But if you had like one quick shot of what those actual staples are that you're trying to remove, that'd be cool to have.
The door pocket is the next thing to come off. It's screwed in from the back side of the door panel with 4 screws. Put the screws back in the pocket and set it aside. It's a little beat up, but we'll keep it.
Staples out.
To get the door cap off the door.
So some of this, it is just work. So you can either, if you want to try tighten it up, that'd be nice. I think make it more entertaining if it's a little tighter.
Door card, we have to bend up these industrial staple looking things. Then the cap should pull away from the card. This really makes recovering everything a lot easier. We can peel the...
So there, that dissolve I don't think quite makes sense there. Yeah, you're dissolving into itself. So here's the situation. Maybe what you can do is use a transition of some sort. Transitions are oftentimes looked down upon. But if you had here, I'll see if I have one of my favorite ones is dip to black or dip to white. Because it's very simple, but it basically invokes a scene change.
Easier.
So once you remove that, and then if we do... Again, this is partly my style coming across, so I don't want you to get the impression I'm trying to force a style on you. But if we notice here, if we do this, get my finger. I don't like touchpads for editing. But if I do let's just pick one. Where's my effects? Again, I haven't set this up in a long time, so good one for maybe this. A dip to black, even a wipe or a push or any kind of video effect. You don't want to overuse video effects when you're making a video. You generally want to stick with cuts when you're inside the scene, but if you're going to transition from one set piece to another set piece, sometimes a transition will work really well. So I like dip to white too. It's more of a friendlier. Dip to black I feel is like more over the top. So see, here's an example. Like that's a quick way to cut without repeating. You have very much the same set, right? They're very much the same. You're working on the hood of the car, so it's very much the same look, but you're kind of resetting the visual image.
We can peel the cloth.
That to me works better. Now again, you can use dissolve. There's all kinds of different video transitions you can use. I won't go through them all. Let's ask what are good transitions you can do manual, like panning into the dark comes in the mind, like panning into the dark. Like actual shoot, there's a whole bunch, you could do, this is kind of was super popular in a long time, with put your hand over the camera kind of a thing. So there's ways you can pan over or do a what do they call it, a swish pan, just shoot it, do like that. So again, any transition will work here as long as I'm a big fan of the program Red Giant's Universe. So I use a lot of Red Giant Universe's transitions. There are also, if you're using Premiere, there are Premiere, what do they call them? Premiere Composer, I think it's called. Mr. Horse, look that up. There's a lot of good transitions, like shake transitions. There's a lot of little video-esque things. Yeah, whip pan is a good example of what I'm talking. Gunner, that's good. That's the term for it. Whip pan. And I don't know. It says doing the actual physical effects to cause transition is really popular on TikTok. Yeah, it's a TikTok-y thing. But hey, if it works, it works. It's nothing wrong with incorporating some TikTok elements to it. Yeah, and rack focusing, blurring in and out would be good too. Schlitz ads. It might be cheesy, but you could do an extreme zoom in, match it, and then pull out. Yeah, that'd be cool too. I don't know what program you're using, but there's cross zoom. But again, this is the whole point of. Oops, let me just do this. Let's see. Let's see what it looks like. So I mean, this is more of a cheesy video effect. That
We can peel
zoom
the
thing.
cloth and vinyl off the back.
Yeah, Sapphire Sizzle Reel says is good. I just haven't put the money down for Sapphire, but yeah, Red Giant Sapphire. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Again, you know, don't overuse it. Don't use it for everything, but like for these situations where you have to clock wipe, if you want to go the old school star wipe, use Power Director. Okay, so yeah, whatever, you know, I'm sure Power Director has a bunch of different transitions in them you can use. So now that we're done talking about transitions.
We'll right off with the material. The material in the bare door card will be used as patterns for our new door card. Before we can remove the vinyl from the door cap, we have to remove what's left of the window scraper. Some more of those staple looking things.
So here I would probably cut some of this out because I really can't see the staple things. Like if I could see them, then I could, you know, actually visually see what you're doing with them. But right now it's just kind of like busy work here.
This is just like the door card. Peel the vinyl off the back, then pull it off the front.
Show this part where maybe even we could speed up the rest of it, but show that little, because that's some action. That's like visual action. Edoc says, what are some of your opinions of must-have plugins for Premiere Pro? I really like Universe. There's this thing called Knights of the Round Table. If you use After Effects and you use Control FX by Andrew Kramer, basically that creates the same functionality in Premiere, and I use it all the time because I try to edit really fast, right? So Control Spacebar and I can pull up any effect. It's like a must-have. So I would definitely recommend that, and also if you look in the Premiere Composer from Mr. Horse, there's others like that out there that's really, really useful. In fact, I think Premiere Composer is probably the one of the most useful, especially for doing graphics. All right, let's keep going.
The door card backing board was crumbling while the vinyl was being removed. It had to be replaced. All I can say at this point is that plans change rapidly and mistakes were made. Plan A was to replace the door cards with cardboard backing board. It's probably the same strength and weight as the original material. It's easy to cut, and this is how it's been done for decades.
So this is, sorry, Dana, this is another example of the framing could just be better if you just zoomed in a little bit, and you know, your point of interest is really, I think, more that there's not a whole lot going on outside this area of the shot.
But as the cardboard was being marked for cutting, I realized that the material will eventually suffer the same fate as what just came off the door. The first time it gets wet, it'll pucker and deform, and the new door cards will look as bad as the originals. I don't want to put 20 hours into rebuilding the door cards and have to do the same job over again in 5 years. So what to do? So plan B is fiberglass. What's left of the original backing board will need to be as clean as possible and somewhat resemble its original shape. Get the rest of the foam off the board.
So now this part,
the plastic scraper comes in handy. If fiberglass is the road you want to go down, you can't spend too much time prepping the old card before you start laying up the material.
I wouldn't overly produce. Again, it depends on what you're trying to do with the video. I think this video is more of a
vacuum gets the rest of the small bits off the working surface.
And I think it's absolutely fine if you just kind of show some of this work.
As you can see, the rear edge of the backer board is rolled up and it just won't stay flat. I tried to fix it several times without luck. It needs something to keep it flat.
I like what you did here. That's cool. I like that.
Break out the wife's hot glue gun.
Put the stuff right there on the shot.
The hot glue gun will also help us repair the other bits of the backing board that have cracked and some that have even broken off. The front of the backer board sits just proud of the center section. It will need to be elevated to retain the original shape while fiberglassing. The backer board is covered with a layer of masking tape so the fiberglass will release from it. If you try this, test out your tape first to make sure the fiberglass releases easily. Lay out the
You might
cloth
have been
on the
able to
back
cut
of
some
the
of
board.
that out.
Have all your
Very end
layers
of that.
cut and ready to go.
Other than that,
You have to do this all at one time because fiberglass will not stick to itself after it sets up without sanding. And that's just another step to slow down the progress. Mix up the resin according to the instructions. You should have a good idea of how much hardener to use from your tape test. I mixed mine exactly to the instructions as it gave me a long working time. While I was saturating the fiberglass cloth, I noticed that the top of the fiberglass was nowhere near smooth enough to cover with our upholstery material.
I think this is pretty good.
I could use this fiberglass piece as a negative mold and then use the backside to create a positive backer board, but the tape is not completely smooth and would require a lot of filling and sanding.
I'll pause it so I'm not talking over the video. I would probably put more graphics on the screen if it was me, but that's just because I'm a graphics hound. But this is good because you're seeing the work being done, and I don't have a problem. I think this is fine.
Sanding. That is way too much work, and I don't want to be out here in the garage for hours doing this because fiberglass and Bondo are really smelly, and the noise of the cicadas is driving me crazy.
I can concur that that Bondo smells. I like this shot here. Nice little can.
This brings us to Plan C. I spent a couple days online looking for ABS sheets. Seems that COVID has also impacted the production of ABS resins, and most places were out of stock. I finally found a place that could ship me 2 sheets of 2 foot by 4 foot, 1/8 inch ABS plastic.
So that's a little confusing there. I would probably recut this a little bit because I don't know why he flipped it over. I know it was a mistake, but I wouldn't use it because it's to the viewer it's confusing. You don't really know why it's being done. It takes a while. It's all about messaging and getting the
bottom edge up, right?
Yeah.
And if I line that bottom edge up, that's one cut we don't have to make.
So it explains it right there. So I talked my mouth off right there. Again, I think that might be a little more artful way of it.
Plant the old backer board upside down onto the back side of the ABS.
I like those shots to the side too. Those are good.
Using a silver Sharpie, draw the outline of the backer board onto
There you've got voice talking over each other. So
the
pick one or
ABS.
the other on that.
Ah, yeah, you can actually see a mark on there now.
You might want to cut a couple of these. It's like I get it. He's drawing. That's not the most exciting thing.
Trace out all the holes that need to be cut into the new ABS backer board. The new board will need a hole for the door latch and the window winder at a minimum. If the original interior door handle is going to be put back on, now is the time to trace those holes as well. Trace out all the holes for the door panel retainer clips.
Again, probably cut some of this here.
Mark the slots that the big staple things came out of so they can be cut out later. The slots can be double checked before making the actual cuts. Remove the clamps and set the original backer board aside in a safe place. Because the original backer board was falling apart, some of the missing lines need to be traced in with the aid of a straight edge.
That shows the deformation of that material.
Did it have any formation to begin with?
No, I'm sure there was a formation somewhere.
It left about 15 years ago.
I didn't quite get that line. I would probably
To make the cuts in the ABS, use a jigsaw with a fine-toothed blade.
Again, you don't need to see the lid being closed on the...
Cut out the shape of the new backer board first, so the
Just
piece
get
is
the-
smaller and easier to work with.
There's an old line that what's the name of that director? But anyhow, he's German. He came to the United States, to Hollywood, and they said, basically, where'd you learn how to make films by watching adult films, right? And he's like, yeah, I learned one really important thing about adult films. You get to the fucking point. Okay, sorry about the language. I just ruined this video for any kind of non-kids thing. But anyway, just get to the point. Sometimes like okay, we get
Take
it.
your time.
Cut the thing.
Keep the blade speed to a minimum, or the plastic will melt
here.
and the cut will fill back in. Keep the edge well supported to avoid the plastic chattering up and down.
Rick H that put this video together.
About a mile from the wrench mine, someone just took out a power pole with their car.
Uh-oh.
The forces of the universe have lined up against getting these door cards done today.
I love that graphic. It's cute.
So why fight it?
That's not
Pizza
us.
time. The power was out for a while.
How do you not show the pizza? Oh man, Rick, come on. Show me some pizza action. I want to see.
So the next day, we were back at it. The slots that the door panel retainers sit in are keyhole-shaped cutouts with some extra space for adjustment on one end. To me, it looks like a hole and a smaller hole with a slot connecting them. So I'll drill the 2 holes and use the jigsaw to cut the slot
Put
between.
those clamps back on. Generally, I like that's a great little B-roll shot. This is cool right there. That's awesome. Generally, I like the shots going on. The compositions are pretty good here. They're interesting. It's a nice little montage.
Test fit the retainers in the slots. If any are too tight, go back and trim a little more. All of the retainers are brittle. I was lucky enough to find a source for replacements. Grab the old sockets and yank them out. Press the new socket in and tap it home with a mallet. Damn it.
I like that reference. That self-referential joke. That's nice.
Populate the new backer board with our shiny new retainers. Pop them in the big hole, then slide them over to the smaller hole.
Yeah, we don't really need to watch you putting screws back in the back. That's cut.
Time for a test fit. Align the backer board retainers with the door sockets and press them in. Okay, let's cover the new door panel with the material.
Don't you think we should drill the holes for that other thing first?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I was gonna say. So on this very final credit sequence here, I think what I would do is I love the graphic on the back is pretty nice. So I would, but I would like darken it. Apply like a brightness filter. Just make it darker so it's not fighting the actual credits. That's a easy way to do it. Now you might want to put a little bit of blur on that, make get a little more separation. But that's kind of that'd be a nice way to handle it. And then the ending shot, which I don't know why it's in this shot, but sure. So there you go. That's kind of like a rundown of some of the a way to critique the video. Again, I don't expect you guys to be like, if it's not a professional video, I don't expect a professional, all the different bells and whistles that a professional might have. Let's get out of the dual screen here. Whoa! Okay, there we go. But there's a lot you can do. I think there's a lot you can do just from using amateur tools, editing tools. There's so much more you can do. Oh, that's the other thing you mentioned? Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so yeah, good job though. Keep at it, man. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Like, we didn't talk much. Your color correction was pretty good. I mean, your color was pretty decent. Again, I don't want to go too down into certain rabbit holes. If you can't control certain things, then there's no point in doing that. Sizzle reel, thank you. That was fun. I enjoyed doing that. Like, and this is an open invitation. I think this might be something we would do with the live streams when I don't necessarily have anything else to talk about. is to just have people submit videos, and I will critique them. And it'll be any kind of video that you're working on. Even let's try to avoid. Don't give me a feature film and expect me to sit and critique a feature film. But like like a 5 minute, and this is a little long at 13 minutes, but yeah, a 5 minute video. If it's a narrative film, if it's a video project, if it's a class, I don't know, class schoolwork assignment. But and Rick H says we all must make out so videos so we can get a lot better. Yeah, make our so. It's I don't think it's. Again, I think you have a lot of good elements there. I think you just need to tighten it up a little bit more. I think just there's certain things that you could feel like it's draggy a little bit. I think if you just tighten it up. Sizzle Reel, if you want to submit something, go to filmmakeriq.com. Go in the comments or the contact us. I think there's a contact form. There should be a contact form on there. Let's see if I can do this. All right, I'm gonna pull it up here. Hopefully I don't lose my audio here. So this is the desktop that I'm looking at right here. Let's get rid of that comment, and it should be Filmmaker IQ. Contact us, and just put it in the message. Hopefully it's like on Vimeo or YouTube or something. I'll download it and we'll do a critique of it. I think it's a good thing to do for the live streams is the critiques. Go back to me. It's good. Instead of me trying to figure out what to talk about every week, it's like, oh, let's do a critique. But yeah, I think it'd be fun, and I think it helps me out because it makes me look at these things a little more carefully. Christ-centered Ironworks, she got 1,700 videos. It's a lot of videos. Well, if you're making 1,700 videos, there's not that many. Like I think I have like 70 videos, and I've been doing it for 8 years or something like that. I'm trying to pull these comments. I'm trying to drink my Arizona iced tea, which is not a sponsor, but they should be. Mindo says, the backlight reminds me of the infrared light we used on the piglets in our farm. They were they're born to keep them nice and warm and such. Oh, they're blue though. Rule of thumb for audio mixing: voice -6 to -12, background sounds -12 to 20, music sound effects -6 to -12. But if you're using an audio bed, I'd personally drop the music a lot lower. Yeah, it depends on it's all a. So I mean, yeah, that's probably a good place to start, but it is all subjective. Is that an Arnold Palmer? I believe it is. Half and half. It's a diet, too. On top of that. Nice. Is it possible that the energetic music made it feel like the video dragged a wee bit? It could. Especially if the music doesn't match the visuals. If the visuals are you putting screws in a bag, and you got like it's all part of the. That's why filmmaking is such an art form. Video, filmmaking. And I'm broadening out to like videos, how-to videos, and every motion picture product out there. It's an art form because how you combine music and visual. It can change. I can put like serene music over it, and it changes everything. It's all part of how you that's why we get paid big bucks to do this professionally. It's really cool. Hey fella, sorry to segue from your subject, but why do you have any but do you have any Big 5 studio backstory in the pipeline? Right now, no. I finished up that Fox Hollywood. So at Fox, I did the Paramount. So those are the two that are out there. Fox is doing okay. I just need a little bit of break because it's such a harrowing experience to make one of those videos. I'll probably end up doing I want to do another bit I might put the detective hat on again and do like a side story, which is a shorter version. I want to talk about this Nikita Khrushchev visit to Fox. Because I think it's just amazingly fascinating. That story. It's insane. Like, well, let me see if I can show you a little bit of see if I can pull up a a clip of it on YouTube if my computer will not die on me as I do this. But yeah, I want to do that. I have a video about the movie Candy that I wanted to do a review. Oh, my computer is not. I'm saying not even on the internet anymore. That's weird. Well, let's not worry about it today. A movie review on Candy. I want to do a video about panning. And I've got this video in my head about what frame rate the human eye sees, and I got kind of a unique perspective on it that's not mainstream, and I think it'll piss off a lot of people, but I think for a lot of people it also like light a light bulb on people's like minds, like whoa, like this realization that oh yeah, your eye's frame rate, if we can call it that, is actually a lot lower than you think it is. It doesn't mean you can't see you can't see like 144 hertz monitor. It doesn't mean that. It just means that like a camera shooting at 12 frames a second could still see the same effect. Doesn't mean that your eyes actually see 144 frames a second. Oh, thank you, Rick, for that super chat. Now, all of y'all, if y'all want a video critique, may just drop a super chat. I don't mind that, but I will, open that up stuff. I will open. Yeah, Shispa says, human eye stuff, nice. Our rods and cones retain that for a while. Exactly. And then you get to the whole, concept of the fovea versus the peripheral vision. And the fovea is actually slow. It's actually very, very slow. The conclusion I'm kind of running toward is that the human eye's frame rate, if we can call it a frame rate, because it's not really a frame rate, it's closer to like 12 frames a second, 10 to 12 frames a second. Now, you don't experience the world in 10, 12 frames a second. Obviously, that's not what your experience is. It's because the human brain it's so much work. It's like cell phone photography, right? It's computational. The human brain interprets the world to give you a smooth reaction to the world, even though, and again, the eye doesn't have exactly a frame rate, but the cells themselves are about 10 to 12 frames a second, or 10 times per second. So not very fast, but your brain interprets everything, puts it all together, and gives you an experience that is fluid and real. But again, it'll piss off so many people. So many gamers are going to freaking cry their brains out. I'm going to get so much hate for that video, which is good because it gets my numbers higher. I have a phobia versus against clowns. Yeah, it's a different kind of phobia. Yep, exactly. Chris Fleming says magicians have been exploiting this for hundreds of years. Eye frame rate, and I think the problem is that, and I want to pop the balloon of these gamers that just think, oh my God, my eyes are so highly tuned because I spend 8 hours a day playing CS:GO. It's like, well, you definitely are training your brain to see microscopically small little flicks of things, and that's cool. But doesn't mean you're not human and you can't be fooled by your eyes. Like the whole, if you guys are familiar with the McGurk effect, if you haven't looked up the McGurk effect, McGurk, it's a trip. The McGurk effect shows people a video of a guy saying ba, 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 and then they play the same thing again, but instead of ba, you hear va, va. And it's the same exact footage, and you're looking at it, and you're seeing ba and va, and you're hearing different. Is it hearing or seeing? Oh, that's what it is. You're hearing va, but you're seeing ba, that kind of thing. But you're hearing va. It's crazy. I think I screwed up how it exactly works. But look up McGurk effect if you haven't figured. But anyhow, the whole point is like the visual system it's not perfect. And people that go around saying, oh, I see 140 frames, like my eyes are so good I can see all these frames per second. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And I've gotten so much shit in that 24 FPS video for saying, oh no, your eyes don't see 144 frames per second. Oh my God. Every other comment's like, oh, of course they do. Of course they do. Like, no, they don't. No, they don't. And I thought it was a settled thing because when when Vsauce does a video, you figure, well, if Vsauce covered it already, you got all these other people covering it already, then it's established, right? The internet pop understands that the eye doesn't have a frame rate, right? Oh no. And you have people like that Corridor Digital made a video about making a camera like the human eye, and they're repeating the same myth. That, oh yeah, the human eye can see a frame rate of 480 frames a second, so therefore our camera has to be like no, dude. Yeah, high frame rate in gaming has more to do with things like stutter and games, anything about being able to see a difference. So I'll spoil it for you guys right now. You know, like the whole thing is like, well, I have a 60 hertz monitor and I have a 144 hertz monitor, and I wiggle the mouse around on the monitor, and I can clearly tell the difference between the 144 hertz monitor and the 60 hertz monitor. That means my eyes can see at least 144 frames a second. Well, I could take a picture. At let's say 1/10 of a second shutter speed. And I could tell you the difference between the two monitors. So saying that I can tell a monitor has high refresh rate doesn't mean my eyes are capable of seeing that refresh rate. It's not, yeah, right. Chris Fleming says motion blur. Yeah, it's the opposite of motion. It's the lack of motion blur, right? Because there's no motion blur, we can see all the different pieces of it. And like the whole... And again, this is going to take me a while to get the video out, so I'm not, I'll spoil it. But like I came to this realization when I was trying to demonstrate the 3-2 pull down for 24 frames a second. So many people again just get hung up about 3-2 pull down. Oh, you can't show 24 frames on a 60 hertz display. It's not even. Well, it's like you'll never notice it. So I tried to put in little dots on the screen, like for 1 frame a dot, 1 frame, 1 frame, 1 frame, to see if I could see this, like bup, 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 to see if I could notice the 3-2 cadence, right? 1 frame, 1 frame, 1 frame, 1 frame, 3-2, 3-2, like that. And I looked at it and I realized, oh crap, I'm not seeing one individual dot. I'm seeing 2 dots. I'm not experiencing 1 dot. I'm experiencing like at least 2 dots, 2 and maybe a half a dot, like a 2 dots and a dim dot. I'm not seeing one individual dot. So that made me realize, oh, our eyes aren't even capable of seeing that fast. So anyhow, I like bursting people's bubbles. I definitely do, because when I was a kid, I was an arrogant son of a bitch. I like to just pop the little bubble. Yeah, Meow Wang says, I think the hate for 24p originates from people automatically modes using improper shutter speeds, which gets rid of motion blur and makes things look like shit. Yeah, I think people's hate for 24 comes a lot from it is a Dunning-Kruger thing. It really is a Dunning-Kruger thing. People just learn, oh, I know what a frame rate is. Oh, 24 bad. Like, I'm smart now. I just realized that there's more than the frame rates are a thing. Therefore, it's low frame rates bad. It's a total Dunning-Kruger. Again, like, and I flew. So I've been starting to get back into my FPV drones, and I shot some stuff just in my parking lot. I don't have internet. I would show you this video. But I flew it on my naked GoPro, which is a GoPro that's been stripped down. I had to get it repaired, blah, blah, blah. And I shot at 24, and I thought, okay, it's not bad. It looks pretty good, but I didn't have an ND filter on it, and I thought I set it to 180-degree shutter speed in the program, but I added some motion blur after the fact, and it looks super smooth, and it's 24 frames a second. It looks great. I did shoot some 60p just to compare, and 60 does have a very video-y feel. So, I mean, it's nice. It looks great, but it's got a little... It doesn't have that kind of the... Something about 24 just has a little bit crisper texture to it. Anyhow. Sounds a lot like Mythbusters and the plane taking off from a moving runway. It's all about how you phrase the question, how to interpret the answer. Yeah. Mindo works. maybe confused with how we respond. Exactly, it's the it's the feeling people talk about, not actually individual frames, motion over time. People are just uneducated. And there is, when we're dealing with gamers, you're dealing with adolescent teenage boys and a desire to be big man, right? Let's not kid ourselves. Like, I remember like these comments about, I am so evolved because I play computer games all day long that I can see so sharp. I can notice little tiny things. Well, it's like, you don't think Grandpa flying in a World War I biplane didn't have to have the same kind of split second reaction? You think your Paleolithic ancestors from 200,000 years ago who went on a hunt, whose ability to like basically nail that little squirrel, in a split second, or else he would starve that day. You don't think they had also a visual acuity? It's not the same, but don't pretend like you're so much better. Chris Fleming says 3-2 pull down was only used for TV in line, so it wasn't as pronounced. Now with digital, it's a thing of a past. No, it's not a thing of the past. It's actually with us all the time, because again, our displays are 60 hertz. So they obviously, if you're showing 24 frames over 60 hertz, you got to have some sort of pull down. So even if it's not the traditional 3-2 pull down with the interlacing, but there's always something. Like I've done this a lot too. When I'll watch, sometimes I'll watch a video. Like, okay, so this is weird. I watch this video. So I'm kind of getting into general aviation now. So there's a video out there about a guy who basically ditched his plane in December. Like he Jacob something or another. Basically, he was flying his small aircraft, and he said, "Oh no, my airplane is stalling." So he like does a couple things, and then he's like, "Well, luckily I always wear a parachute." So he bails on the plane, and the plane, which has GoPros on it, which is highly suspicious, like crashes into a mountain. And so anyways, it was being analyzed by this airline pilot called Mentor Pilot. He's like an airline teacher, flight instructor. And I was watching, like, the graphics are 60 hertz or 60 frames a second, but he doesn't look like he's 60 frames. Like, something's weird. So I sat there and I went frame by frame on YouTube, but you can and you can count 3 frames. Okay, next frame, 2 frames, 3 frames, 2 frames, 3 frames, 2 frames. So yeah, definitely 3-2 is still around. Yeah, spot that saber tooth. Bo and Mike says, I think gaming frame rate and video frame rate are a bit of an apples and oranges thing. It is. Absolutely. Totally 100% agree with you. However, you think that stopped people from bitching about 24 frames a second on my videos, complain like, oh my God, it's nonstop. Like, yeah, of course, even though I've said over and over again that I don't think it's a gaming, I obviously don't think gaming should be done at 24. I've tried it. It sucks. It actually sucks. Unless you design avionics, that's cool. I've been thinking about getting into flying. I'm a little worried about my height and weight. I know I've been in a small plane before, a sitting co-pilot. I didn't like not fit, but I know some of these planes are like a little too small for me. If you have to have a certain weight limit on some of these planes. Not that heavy, but I'm heavy enough for some planes. Yeah, he should be in jail. I think you're talking about that one guy that pulled that stunt. Yeah, he should be in jail. That was so incredibly dumb what he was trying to do. If you haven't seen the footage, or at least watch some of the reaction videos by actual pilots, they're like, his plane stopped. He stopped in midair. He's about like 10,000 feet up in the air. Plenty of room. Like he kept like pulling back on the stick. When your engine dies on a single motor engine, this is what I understand. Like, you want to dive, you want to gain airspeed. First of all, airspeed will get you a better glide ratio, so you can actually go farther, perhaps make an emergency landing at hopefully a nearby field. But on top of that, you want to get the propeller spinning again, so you can try to like start the engine up again. Did none of that. Didn't know that. No, oh shoot, my point. Bail. And then the people are saying like, oh yeah, there's plenty of like little fields. He's flying a Piper, nose, rear dragger. What do they call them? Tail dragger. And it was kind of designed for rough landings. It wasn't, like a super. You don't need like a pristine runway to land the thing. I mean, you could have tried to set it down on a riverbed or something. It would be damaged, but at least you wouldn't like drop into a mountain. So anyhow, that kind of got me interested in getting into general aviation. Oh, Christ Thunder and Ironworks, thank you for the super chat. What frame rate would you recommend for tutorial content on YouTube? Right now I'm filming 30 FPS with my eyes, 60 FPS cleaner in post. I think 30 is probably fine. What critiqued was at 30 frames a second. For tutorial videos, it's absolutely fine to use 30. 60 is fine too. I'm not going to, for doing live event stuff, I did a cooking show long time ago with my longtime producer, and I shot it in 60p, and I thought it looked great. I thought it looked really good. And again, it was also, I could only record 720 at that time. The technology wasn't available. It's just that 24 has a certain aesthetic to it that I cannot get away from it. I don't want to get away from it. I keep coming back to it. It just has a little texture. It has like a little bite to it that the other content doesn't. Maybe, maybe you want to shoot 60, and if you do like a really high end, you want to show off your finished product, maybe do that in 24 and embed that in 60. It can be done. Anyhow. Recently, MKBHD is spreading so much hate about 24p being the wrong frame rate. Who's MKBHD? It makes me cringe. And with all the millions of people following him, he dumbing down the masses. Very sad. Yeah, the whole 24p, if he keeps spreading hate about it, go ahead. Because maybe that's why my videos my 24p video keeps getting referenced. But unfortunately, it's one of those things, and I don't want to get too political, but it's like politics. It's like, I'm going to get people riled up about 24p or 24 frames per second. And somebody was getting on my case for saying p. The old habits. There's a reason why it's called 24p versus something like 24. SPF? Not SPF. Something like that. Partial PSF. So there's a difference between 24p and 24 PSF. So he keeps saying 24p, but yeah, people getting riled up about 24 frames a second, and then they go watch anime, which is at 4 frames a second. I get so many anime people with anime avatars telling me, 24p is awful. You got an anime avatar. I saw there's anime there's 60 FPS anime out there, literally like Ghost in the Shell, where there's absolutely no motion whatsoever, and it's like, oh my god, this is so much better in 60 frames a second. Give me a break. It's just rallying people up about something and getting upset about, sign this petition to ban dihydrogen monoxide. Dihydrogen monoxide is killing the environment. You can die with too much dihydrogen monoxide. Dihydrogen monoxide contributes to over 10,000 deaths every day. And then the dangerous thing about it is if you don't have enough dihydrogen monoxide, you also die. It's the worst possible thing. Let's get angry about dihydrogen monoxide. And of course, all you folks, because you guys watch me, you know what that is, right? Anyhow. All right. Oh, MKDHD is a tech review dude. He's more about phones than anything else. Well, there you go. He doesn't know. Yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking about. People always say, well, you probably watched my myth of frame rate thing. It's like, if I gave you a can of grape or a glass of grape juice and a glass of wine, and you were 5 years old, which one do you think would taste better? The grape juice. The grape juice tastes better because you're 5 years old, or even if you're 10 years old, because you don't have an experience with wine. You don't know what wine is. Wine, it's got a weird bitter taste. Grape juice is delicious. The same thing with frame rate. Rick says 60 FPS for sports. I agree, totally. Unless you want to make it sports look really epic. which is weird. If you ever watch like ESPN and they do like old NFL films, they'll often just dump it down to 24 because it, like, oh, he's here, he's in the end zone, and he catches the ball, and it's like 24 every time they want to make sports look more epic, they make it 24 frames a second. Rigel says they put that shit in windshield fluid. I know. Can you believe that? Dihydrogen monoxide. Horrible, horrible things. Horrible. Yeah, it's artistic choice. To me, 24 FPS for serious films, 30 FPS for YouTube. I wouldn't say even serious films. Like, I think 30 FPS is good for like any documentary, kind of real life stuff where you have a little more forgiveness in 30 than you do in 24, like as far as the pans and stuff like that. But honestly, I shoot a lot of 24 live stuff too, so you can do it. All right, here we go. When shooting sports, should you higher the shutter speed or to stop motion blur? Not necessarily. Again, it depends on it always depends on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, if you're just shooting regular sports, maybe, again, 60 frames a second is probably a good to go. I'll give you an example. Long time ago, I was hired by this relatively rich fellow whose daughter was at college and wanted to, and so he wanted me to go. He hired me literally to go out there every time they had a game. I would go and shoot the soccer game, and basically give him for like training video stuff. He paid me. I was like, okay, I'll do it, whatever. So and I shot. At that point I was shooting 60i, right? Because it's all we had back then. My point. So if you wanted to shoot that, shoot 60. Again, it's not. I think you can follow. You can do a 360 rule, 360 shutter angle, or you can do a 180. It's completely up to you. In that case, the point was to analyze the actual field movement. It's not super important what frame rate. So again, but once you get to like 60 frames a second, if you're shooting 160th of a second or you're shooting 120th of a second, for me, when I was shooting that stuff, I had to shoot as wide open because it was getting dark. A lot of the games were at night. Going around a long way around is saying, I don't think it really matters. So, you're asking if you're capturing boxing, for example. I think you're probably fine at 60 frames a second at 160th of a second is probably fine. Like I wouldn't get carried away about trying to go higher frame rate. Because you're not trying to capture, unless you're trying to capture every single frame, and you're trying to do like an analysis, like a motion analysis. Maybe you want to do like a higher shutter speed. But, I would experiment too with it. Shoot something at 160th. Think what you like better. Again, if you're shooting boxing, you might be shooting indoors, and you might be subject to some lighting issues. So. Gunner says this chat is great. FPS, SDS, STDs, washer fluid, bongs. I didn't talk about bongs yet. Oh, the chat maybe has. I film weddings at 24. It looks much better than 30. I agree. Weddings, I think, definitely should be shot in 24. Yeah, definitely. Weddings should look epic. So, yeah, tonight I've got to do a rehearsal for Cinderella. So I was watching Cinderella. So I watched a couple movies. I watched Cinderella, the 1960 version, 1958-60 with Leslie Ann Warren. Good God, Leslie Ann Warren is beautiful. Like that was like her first thing she ever did. She's so gorgeous. However, I did take a little something that's perfectly legal here in California. You might have noticed a theme, but I did take a perfectly legal substance. And Leslie Ann Warren's neck was really long. So toward the end of the movie, when the perfectly legal substance was starting to kick in, I was starting to freak out because I was like, she looks like a giraffe. Dude, she's like a giraffe. She's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful and lovely, but she looks like a giraffe. She looks like a giraffe. and then Cinderella, shit gets real at midnight. No kidding. Yeah, so I was like, well, I got me a little bit of Leslie Ann Warren. I'm gonna I'm going to have to finish this off, so I put on Clue. And I watched Clue after... I wasn't tripping balls, but she's got a real long neck. She does. She really, really freaking does. So I gotta get going pretty soon because I gotta go home, get some dinner, and before I go to rehearsal, which is like 3 hours. Like Oscar, I keep saying Oscar Hammerstein. It's Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, which they wrote originally for a TV series. They actually wrote it for CBS. And they wrote it because it would have given them a chance to work with Julie Andrew. So they wrote this musical, and then I forget why. Like I think it's gone through several different variations. The musical I'm playing is the version that's been like redone in 2007. I think they made it longer, like a full-length Broadway musical. So they added a bunch of stuff to it. So it's fun. But Rodgers and Hammerstein, it's like I didn't expect it to be a whole lot of music because I thought, well, it's Cinderella. They don't need a lot of trumpet players for Cinderella. I mean, it's mostly violins, and it's Rodgers and Hammerstein, which is very like classical orchestra. No, this book is thick. Holy moly, it's a long blow, man. It's not terribly hard music to play, but it's a lot of it. A lot of it. So I'm going to be doing that tonight. Oh, excuse me, splashing on myself. Dihydrogen monoxide. And I'm going to be doing that in March here. We're going to be doing, yeah, and then Madeline Kahn, flames on the side of my face. Gunner says I'm in PA and I recently got my medicinal card. You know, in California, we don't need anything. I turned around on it when there's this place called the Syndicate, which is which I don't know if he still owns it, but partly owned by the Chamber of Commerce CEO. And it is amazing dispensary. Like it is, you walk into this. It's a small room. It's like a small library thing. And they take your ID. Say, okay, welcome. And then the library door opens, and you walk into this beautiful like wood furnishing. Everything looks like a 1920s speakeasy. And they kind of tongue in cheek got pictures like Al Capone on behind bars. They got like all it's a lot of very speakeasy rum running kind of theme to it, but it's like super nice in there. And you're like, well, this is not like your typical like shady dispensary. This is like a legit place. And there's like 3 other dispensaries in that town, and they're like one of them looks like a Santa Monica barber like a hair salon. It's like grass on the wall. I mean, it's super pretty, super pretty. But anyhow, yeah. So I'm not. I mean, I probably need to like quell a little bit because I get a little bit too paranoid when I use it. So I was like, take it off, back off that a little bit. But I'll hang out for a little bit longer before I have to go. Rigel Sevens from Nova Scotia, and I have my debit card. There you go. This stuff disappears when it's lit. No kidding. No kidding. I'm more of a edible person actually. Although I just find them a little more. Look at me. I'd rather eat something than inhale it. Anyhow. Oh, so the other movie I watched. So I rewatched Cabaret. And I was thinking when I was watching this, like, I really want to do a video. I should probably do a video saying that Bob Fosse is probably one of the most underrated directors of the 70s for sure, maybe of all time. Like, I think Bob Fosse is absolutely remarkable. You look edible. Exactly. I think Bob Fosse is just insanely like talented. I look, I like Martin Scorsese. I'm not in love with Martin Scorsese. I really, and look, I know it's going to get me shit on, right? Like, oh, how can you not love Martin Scorsese? I know it was a joke. I was just kidding with you. But I'm kind of soured by my Martin Scorsese recently because like he only makes films if he can get like a couple $100 million. That's the only reason he makes a film. But Bob Fosse, like I think Bob Fosse's work more epitomizes the 70s, at least maybe the more earlier Martin Scorsese ethic of filmmaking. Although I gotta admit, Goodfellas is honestly one of the top films on my list. I really think that's a great film. But I think Fosse has this something about him. So I was watching Cabaret, and I was just noticing some of the shots of the way they're framed, the way Fosse uses camera angles. It has a very rough look to it. Like nothing's, nowadays if we did like a shot, there's a famous shot, probably Fosse's not known for it, but does it a lot, where you have a chorus line and they're all doing a maneuver and the camera whip tracks just runs down the chorus line as they're all doing the maneuver in order. And it looks rough because it's like, it's a little bumpy. Nowadays it'd be a perfect stabilizer shot. It'd probably fly into it, the one, but there's something about it that's really good. I don't know. I'm babbling at this point, but yeah, Cabaret. Going back and watching it, and I was actually getting my prescription pills today, which I need to take more. But I was kind of fascinating how the storyline of Cabaret is interesting, because if you haven't seen the movie yet, I don't want to play the spoiler game. I'm going to spoil it. Whatever. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. If it doesn't interest you, don't watch it. I don't care. Anyhow, the end of the movie, basically, Sally Bowles realizes she's pregnant, and she's with this Michael York character. Sally Bowles, played by Liza Minnelli. Michael York's Brian character, and Brian's kind of bisexual. Sometimes he's gay, sometimes he's not. Right? But Sally Bowles thinks that she's the father. She doesn't know. And they agree. Oh, we're gonna try to we're gonna have this baby. By the way, background, it's like pre World War II Germany, like just on the edge, precipice. Nazis are taking power, and it's like, well, we'll have the baby. We'll settle down, go to Oxford, and we'll have the baby. But then she just gets an abortion, and the baby is no more. And she's like, well, like let's not kid ourselves. Like you're half homosexual. And I'm a kind of a girl at the Kit Kat Club, and I'm like, hitting on men. How realistic are we to have a kid? And I think Michael York's like, kind of like, I was kind of hoping to have a kid. Like, I don't think there's a lot of other movies out there where the major plot line involves an abortion. And abortion is actually, one of those topics that is pretty hardcore. It is a movie that pretty, like, honestly deals with it. Now, I'm not going to, like, necessarily run down on either side of the abortion debate, but this is a movie where I wouldn't say it's pro-abortion, because Michael York's character is, like, devastated to hear that, because he was all set to, be a father to the kid. And she, I think more of the plot of the abortion is kind of revealing of her character is like she's not willing to grow up or to leave her life behind. She's like, when Michael York asks Liza Minnelli, why'd you get the abortion? She says, well, my phone's going off. I will talk to them later. And she says, oh, it's one of my whims. And anyhow, it like hit me when I watched it last night. It hit me so strongly that this is a movie that it was making a point about, it wasn't like in your face trying to make a point about any political thing. There's a lot of political thing. I think obviously it's about not the rise of Nazi Germany. So there are obviously a lot of political points being made in the movie, but that particular part it felt complicated and really interesting. So it just got me to thinking, like I heard a line that, as Jordan Peterson said, that the artist needs to be able to explore and be open. That if you start censoring yourself, that you start becoming less of an artist. And I think that's true. I think that's true. And I'm worried that in many ways, I'm doing that to myself sometimes. I'm trying to censor myself. And Best not to do that. Best just kind of approach things the way they explore, go down the avenues, and don't worry about being canceled for stuff. I'm getting really dark, I know. This stuff coming to my head. Part of that maybe is trying not to be censored, trying to censor myself as far as what I'm thinking, and also for the art that we create. Gunner says, I think you should have an edible and be a guest on my podcast. I don't necessarily need an edible. I can go there. I can definitely go there. The edibles are fun too, though. Yeah, people need things to hope. Hope is a dangerous thing, right? There are people who wish to was an abortion. Not quite sure what that means. But I think that the interesting thing, so, like, if you think about it, like, a lot of Hollywood stories actually are anti-abortion, because if you have an abortion, the story kind of ends. Like, that movie Knocked Up would have been over in 5 minutes if it was an abortion. So, and a lot of times, a lot of movies that deal with kind of birth, if you go the abortion route, the story's kind of over. This is one of those interesting things where a story, not necessarily cabaret, is necessarily Hollywood, but a story where the abortion more represents the character's flaw, or the character doesn't take things seriously. Because Junior would be over very quickly. Is that the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Juno would be over very quickly if she just had an abortion. Like, all these movies would be over if they just had an abortion. Like, you can't, those kind of, I know this is a sensitive topic, and I always try to tread carefully on sensitive topics like this, but it's almost like abortion is the worst thing you can do to a story, except for something like Cabaret, where Cabaret kind of more, the abortion is not necessarily, the abortion is basically revealing the character. Because I think part of the commentary of Cabaret is that the Kit Kat Club, the kind of the debauchery, the carefree attitude, was just kind of turned a blind eye to the rise of Nazi Germany. And in many ways, maybe what the abortion regards to Sally Bowles' character, because Sally Bowles is the American in Germany, is like she doesn't really care about the rise of Nazi Germany. And she's like, I think of all the major characters, although I don't know about the Jewish couple that they're friends with, but she decides to hang out in Germany, even though everyone else is leaving. They were going to make a Junior 2, but Reitman died. Maybe they continue making it. I wonder isn't Junior the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger having a baby? I'm not quite sure, but I wonder if can a major Hollywood make that story now, or is it too controversial, too problematic? I hate that term. Like, I used to be a big fan of Lindsay Ellis, but when things start becoming problematic, I lost. Yeah, I kind of lost interest in all that. Like, I don't want art. I don't want to be in a position of calling like some person's artistic expression problematic. Like, and this is to be perfectly honest, and I'll be opaque here, not opaque, but cards on table. I completely removed every reference to No Film School I could possibly find. Like, I didn't want to see anything from that website when they published an article saying that the Joker movie should not have been made. Like, when they publish an op-ed saying, and I'm not the only person that felt that way. Like, there were some previous No Film School writers that, like, in the comment section just went to town on that site for saying, this is before they even saw the movie. They said the Joker movie is a movie that should not be made. And I was like, I cannot stand by a site or any person that advocates for filmmakers saying that there are topics we should not even talk about. Like, I'm done. I will never deal with them ever again. So anyhow, yeah. Benjamin Dover says saw Cabaret on Broadway around 2000. The other thing I wonder about Cabaret, the difference between movies and the movie and the musical. By the way, see you later, Gunner. If you want me to come on your podcast, send me an email. We'll talk. But anyhow, between the Broadway musical and the movie, I think there's quite a bit of difference. So I don't know how. I think the movie focuses on certain other aspects and kind of ignores, like, some of the songs like Pineapple Tree are not in the in the movie. Oh, thanks for reminding me of that Joker movie I got to get. Darn. And today I got seasons 1 of Cobra Kai. The Joker movie I liked. Like, people were like, well, it's a ripoff of Taxi Driver. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with that? I mean, sure, it's a ripoff of Taxi Driver, but there's a lot worse movies you could rip off, and we might as well rip off Taxi Driver. And sure, it rips off. To me, it also rips off King of Comedy. Why not? Rip them off, because that's you're basically trying to. It's like a remix of a comic book character with Martin Scorsese's stylings, basically. Okay, that's what it is. I mean, I don't think it's a great film, but I think it's definitely entertaining, definitely interesting to watch. Is it problematic for me to say I'd welcome Lindsay Ellis's problematism? I guess she quit, right? She's done because she got sort of canceled herself, or I don't know. Don't play that game, guys. Don't play the game of don't play the game of running around making people problematic. Like, that's just a recipe. Eventually you become problematic. Like, I've gotten in trouble for stuff, and it haunts me, it bugs me, it scares me a little bit. But then I realize, like, I gotta like realize that some of these people who are coming after me for, like, that. I'll explain that video I did about forced perspective, because I used a model, I used a girl in a bikini. That was wrong. Like, we can't do that, man. And I'm going to review Candy, and on paper, some of the scenes might be described as rapey. I think it's a semantic term. I don't think it's necessarily rapey, but I could see how some people could see it that way. But it's also, it's a parody, so you can't take a parody seriously. Anyhow, oh, it was twins, not Junior, that was on my mind. Well, that's a different story. 4:30. All right, guys. Well, I should probably get going so I have enough time to get home, have some dinner before I go do Cinderella. Will you do I couldn't get that song in my head for a long time. And then the other, Faldy-raw and fiddly-dee and fiddly-dee and foom, whatever. Oh, Ben, you're just joining us late. The Forced Perspective video made me think of the Chris Isaac show, which I liked and dearly miss. I don't remember the Chris Isaac show. I missed that one. I'm just hanging out because I'm like, I don't want to leave yet. Humans have the most bizarre creatures to face other humans. Yeah, and isn't it the weirdest thing? Like, I'll leave us on a political note a little bit. Like, when the pandemic first started, I was involved with, like, city stuff, and I was, like, I was really reading all the latest developments, following all the local advisories, really weird. And I wrote on my Facebook, like, this: we have to treat this like a military maneuver. Like, we have to pause. We have to look around. We have to, like, pause. It's like a military convoy. We're moving down the road, and all of a sudden we're getting shot at. Like, oh crap, we're getting shot at. So we got to pause, stop, okay, assess the situation. You can't keep maneuvering the convoy forward. You're getting shot at. Well, we don't know if the person shooting at us is like a single sniper, or if that's like an army shooting at us. We don't know. We have to pause, assess the situation, and then once we identified, send some reconnaissance out to see what's happening, and then once we get a handle on the situation, we've got to move the convoy forward again, right? at some point we've got to move the convoy forward again. And dang it, like, there are people that don't want to move that convoy forward. Like, we've already assessed the situation. We've seen what's going on. We've identified the shooters. Maybe we've apprehended them. We've got to move the convoy forward. We can't just keep sitting there huddling in our streets like, oh shoot, we're gonna get shot at. We're gonna get shot at. We've got to keep moving. And there are people that are not willing to do that. There are people who are not willing to keep moving forward. Even though a lot of people are moving forward, there's one little guy in a country north of us that does not want to move the convoy forward. We got to move forward. So, yeah. I usually examine the source of what news I hear more than what I hear as news. You should. You should absolutely. And I think part of that too is take some humility and like accept like what you're hearing. It may is somebody's perspective, and it may not be the only perspective out there. So, anyhow, I didn't say his name. Little Hitler. I don't think I'm necessarily wrong in. Maybe I'm against. Maybe I'm like according to certain news sites. Maybe I'm against like the majority of Canadians that support him. But yeah, I'm not a fan. Let's just leave it at that. Let's leave it at that. You want politics? There's plenty of other chats you can go and watch. I don't want to dip my toes right there in that topic quite yet. Maybe one day, but not quite yet. All right, guys, it is not time for me to go. I'm freezing. It's actually cold in here. There's talk about being snowing yesterday, but it didn't happen. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out. If you wanted me to check out your video, we can do a live critique like we did today. Go ahead and go to filmmakeriq.com, contact form, send me a link. And we'll try to do something more of that because I think it was fun. I think it was educational. I hope you learned something useful. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. Off.